So this one's just front-wheel drive, so a little less pep than the all-wheel drive. But still, for two-wheel drive, super efficient vehicle.
It's got a nice pickup.
Electric torque.
Welcome to the episode with Jay Leno's Garage. Today we're featuring a car called the Aptera. I'll let you soak it in here. As you see, rather unusual. 3 wheels, electric, solar panels all over the place. Now, if that name sounds familiar, and you're a sort of devotee of this website, you might remember 13 years ago we did a video with a car with the same name. And not the same car, obviously, but same company. The two gentlemen that were with me then are here with me again. Let's bring them in. Steve and Chris, come on in, guys. How are you?
Good.
None of us has missed any meals in the last 10 years, so that's good to see. Now, the last time you were here, electric cars were still sort of glorified golf carts. There were jokes about how slow they were. I think it's fair to say Tesla changed all of that and really brought electric cars into the mainstream. Now you've got Ford, GM, Chrysler, Audi, Mercedes. Everybody has jumped on the electric car market. I really enjoyed that first generation car when we drove it. It was unusual. People stopped me and flagged me down in the street. I mean, if you didn't want to get attention, that was not the car to drive. What happened there? Did funding run out? What was the problem?
Yeah, it was a great time for electric vehicles back then, but as the economy came down in 2009, it was difficult to raise money, and we were looking for a Department of Energy loan that didn't happen, so we had to let a lot of great people go and then reform the company about 2 years ago.
Well, I think it's great that you stuck to it. You have an idea. You know, I think Elon has proved that the idea works, and especially on a mass scale, because every major manufacturer is committed to going electric. Does that make it easier for you to be a small independent or harder? Because when you first came around, electric, people, how does that? I mean, it was unusual, it was quiet, it was pollution-free, all those problems. Is it easier now or harder now?
I think it's a combination of both. It's easier because we think our vehicle is going to be more affordable because we need fewer batteries.
Right.
So the trend is to make bigger vehicles with bigger battery packs. So we're going the opposite way. So I think there's plenty of opportunity for us.
What does this weigh?
About 1,700 pounds.
About 1,700 pounds. Okay. Now you have it's front-wheel drive. The motor's in the wheel, basically in the hub, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you obviously have regenerative braking. Are there traditional brakes on this as well?
There are.
I can't.
Inside the wheel.
Oh, inside the wheel.
It's integrated.
Okay. A drum or a disc?
Disc.
A disc. Okay. How does that work? Unsprung weight. You always hear people say, "Oh, inboard brakes, inboard engine." You guys have gone the opposite way. Put the engine on the outside. Well, why is that?
What it really does is simplifies the packaging. So now we don't have a motor and a transaxle and drive shafts. We put the motors in the wheels. We take a little bit of a weight penalty, but not that much,
okay,
considering it takes the place of your knuckle and your brake system and kind of puts everything together. But what we get is great regenerative braking because you have a big axis for torque.
Right.
And it's just a terribly simplified system.
And it is a liquid-cooled motor?
Yes.
It is, yeah.
Air-cooled batteries, is that correct?
Liquid cooled.
Liquid cooled.
Oh, liquid-cooled battery. Oh, okay, I see. All the same, two separate systems, or all the same?
They share a common loop.
And how many horsepower do you have per wheel, or is it, well, it's the total, isn't it?
About 70 per wheel, and we have an all-wheel drive version and just a front-wheel drive version.
Okay, and the all-wheel drive version, does that have an additional motor in the back?
It does, yeah.
And that one's what, about 200 horsepower?
Yes.
150 kilowatts in a 1,700-pound package gets you going pretty quick.
Now, these are all solar panels, is that correct?
Yes.
And one other thing you mentioned to me I found fascinating. There's no, quote, traditional radiator per se to cool. The body is actually the radiator? Explain it.
Certain parts of the body have microchannels
Okay,
built into it, and we flow the coolant through there in specific areas to take advantage of the airflow. So the heat is radiated, but air doesn't flow through anything, so it's much lower drag. It's actually zero
How about
drag.
sitting in traffic? Is there an electric fan to augment that? Or?
It's not needed. The heat is really generated on this vehicle when you're driving really fast uphill,
right,
or if you're parked and have the air conditioner on and charging.
Right.
And in both those cases, the system is able to account for
Okay,
the...
so it comes standard with air conditioning.
Yes.
Okay. Now, it doesn't seem like there would be enough solar panels on the vehicle to charge a battery. How does that work?
We have about 700 watts of solar capability on the vehicle. On a sunny day in Southern California, you can get over 4.4 kilowatt hours of energy a day, and that'll take you over 40 miles a day of driving.
And if you're driving on a sunny day, obviously you're pulling in.
Yep.
Well, you're probably using more than you're pulling in, but
You're using more than you're pulling in.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a continual top off if you want to think about it that way.
And it's one speed, one constant speed, right? All right. And can cruise on the highway at 65, 70 miles an hour?
Yeah, 110 mile an hour top speed.
Okay.
Plenty highway capable.
Right.
0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds for the three-wheel drive. So it's kicking the pants when you want it to be.
So what's different from the first generation that we saw? Obviously, it's three-wheel drive because you don't fall into all the, quote, automotive restrictions, and this is classified as a
It's
motorcycle?
an autocycle, actually.
Autocycle, okay. But if you have a rollover protection, you don't need a helmet, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So a lot of people think if you have a motorcycle license, you have to wear a helmet. That's not the case because this is structurally sound enough to... Okay.
Integrated roll protection.
A lot of vehicles coming back from World War II, you know, the motorcycles, they came back with sidecars.
Right.
They kind of came up with this sidecar exemption where if you have three wheels, you don't need a motorcycle license, where you still have to wear a helmet if you don't have something over your head. But as
Right.
long as you're protected over your head, then you don't have to wear a helmet too.
And what is the material? Some composite of some sort?
Different fibers, different composites, depending upon the application.
And is this the turn signals in here?
Yes.
Okay. And no mirror, just a rear view camera? Okay. That legal now?
The U.S. regulators are slow to uptake
Yeah,
that into automotive, and motorcycles will probably be behind automotive. But we're seeing great progress in Europe. You can already use them, so
Right.
we're hoping that you know, as we get into production, they'll be legal in the U.S. too.
Steering is electric power steering, no power steering?
It will be electric.
Oh,
This
okay.
this particular one is manual.
Okay, okay. And when do you see yourself going into production with these?
We're hoping to have a development vehicle ready by the end of this year and start production in 2022. So
Okay.
we're not waiting around. We want to get this into people's hands. We have over 10,000 orders now, so a lot of people waiting
Oh,
for
well,
the
that's good,
Apteras.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And what type of person, I imagine? It's probably somebody like me who likes unusual, different kind of vehicles. I mean, the three-wheel thing is, obviously, it gives it that jet plane on the ground sort of look, which the first one had. I mean, I really had a lot of fun with that one 13 years ago because people just, what is it? You know, it looked like the Jetsons or something. You know, it just was so different than anything else on the road. And you sort of managed to keep that same ethos, so to speak. Who did the design work? Did you guys do the design work?
Jason Hill.
Okay.
He designed the first one, and we're working with him and other aerodynamicists now to bring this shape into fruition. This is actually a little bit bigger, but more aerodynamic and less drag.
How aerodynamic is it? What is the coefficient of drag, do you know?
It's about 0.13.
0.13. Well, that's pretty amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, I know Mercedes-Benz has that new EQS, and that's 0.20, something like that. Yeah, something.
Yes. I think it's
0.20
one of
is
the
about as
lowest.
low as you get in production.
Yeah.
Yeah,
automotive.
yeah. So they claim it's the lowest. Okay, but
Steve really started with the mathematical premise of how do you get from point A to point B with the least amount of energy possible.
Right.
And what we found early on in the analysis is aerodynamics. You know, in a regular vehicle, you can use 60% of your fuel just pushing air out of the way. So
Right.
make it as aerodynamic as possible. Then you get to rolling resistance, so you got to reduce the weight. Then you get to efficient powertrain. You know, you don't get a lot of the energy out of the fuel you burn in an internal combustion engine, but in an electric vehicle, you get a lot of that
Yeah.
fuel out of your battery.
so you see it more as a fun commuter, so to speak?
Part of a family. I mean,
Yeah.
it can go up to 1,000 miles range, so you're not limited
1,000 miles on a charge?
on a single charge. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well,
The most popular version, I think, is a 400-mile range.
Right.
But it's got a tent option. You can go camping with it. You can take it somewhat unimproved roads. You can.
Let's open this up. Show how that opens up. Okay, and the tent just sort of fits on here. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it connects around the side and straps
Right,
the bottom.
right. Okay.
Seats fold forward.
You push the seats forward, you have 7 feet from the back of the seats to the tail. We have a little tray that goes there, so you
Right.
can put your feet there. And
And this almost looks like a rudder. Did people ask you if it goes in the water? Because that's what it sort of looks like. You know?
Keep you straight.
Yeah. Now, the rear is also a hub motor as well, correct?
In the three-wheel drive, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
This is only two.
And obviously, this is all battery pack under here.
No batteries are under the seats.
No batteries in back?
No, this is going to be storage in the beta. So all this area flips open, and you could put fishing rods, skis, whatever in there.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to keep the weight biased forward over the front wheels, so we put the battery pack as forward as possible. So basically the battery pack's under your butt.
What are you, about 65, 35? What's your weight distribution?
But yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
65, 35?
Yep.
Okay. And
We're
this-
trying to get it a little better in the production vehicle, but this one is exactly 65.
And this shuts this. Tell me about, is it plastic or glass?
Glass.
Okay. Is that new thin, thin wall, what do they call that?
No, I wish it were.
Gorilla Glass or
Yeah,
something
this is glass on the Alpha prototype, so it's low volume production.
Okay.
You see some flaws, and it is a little bit thicker than production.
And what is the significance of this design? These appear to be, is it just design or is it?
Yeah, we try to throw solar cells wherever we can put solar cells.
These three here are solar cells?
Yes.
These three here are solar cells, and then you can upgrade and get a rear hatch that's all covered with solar.
Okay.
So with just the base version, you get about 20 miles a day of free power from the sun.
Okay.
If you add the rear hatch, then that gets you over 40.
Oh, okay.
Some people like the visibility out of the rear, so they might not want solar all over the rear hatch, but
Right.
or some
Oh, I see.
people
This
might not
window
need it.
wouldn't be here. Is what
That's
you're
right.
saying.
Yep.
Oh,
It would be
okay.
all solar cells like this covering the whole rear hatch.
Okay. So that's the one that gives you the 40.
Like the roof.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and you'd make up that visibility with the camera system. of
Right,
course.
right. And to open the door, what do I do here? Press one of these buttons. So how would I do that if the window was closed?
We have a button here that you put your finger
Oh,
on.
I
and
see.
it
Okay,
opens,
that's- okay.
Opens up to that.
Well, very cool. And these outside wires here on the, is there liquid going through those as well?
The orange ones are actually power cables,
Right.
and that's just a function of this being an Alpha vehicle. In the
Right.
Beta vehicles, they're enclosed in the aero
Explain
covers.
alpha and beta vehicle.
Well, there's 4 steps to production for
Right.
our car. So you have Alpha, which is this, Beta, which is another 10 vehicles that are going to get crash tested, Gamma, which is the final version, if you will, that's going to be manufactured, and then Gamma and then Delta, which is the final production version after all the
okay.
other development tests are done.
Cool, cool. All right.
So we have a bit of a development path ahead of us, but we got lots of people waiting for Aptera, so we're trying to do it as quickly as possible.
How did people hear about this?
You know, we had a lot of great fans in the past
Right.
that have followed us till today,
Right.
which is wonderful. But I think people just see this on the internet and go, what is that? Solar-powered electric vehicle goodness. I just want to learn more. So we've been humbled by how many people have come out of the woodworks and just said, I want it. Solar-powered charging in my driveway. I don't ever have to plug it in. 1,000 miles range.
Yeah. Why no vents to get engine heat out here?
There's such a big thermal mass in the electric motor, and we use such little energy to push the vehicle. We only use a kilowatt and a half to push at highway speeds, so
Right.
it just doesn't create a lot of heat. We can
Okay.
take enough heat out from inside the wheel to not
Because
have to worry
boy, it
about
seems
outside.
awful low, almost like a lowrider. Almost seems like it would rise up when you start it.
The production vehicle will have 5 inches of road clearance,
Oh,
ground
okay.
clearance all around.
And are there government rules as far as that? I mean, headlights have to be this.
Yes.
This being, what do you call it, an auto
Cycle.
cycle? Okay.
And we have a team of compliance people working
Right.
with making sure that all the FMVSS requirements are met
Right,
for this
right.
style vehicle. So some spacings have to change and heights have to change a little bit.
Now, what goes under here?
We actually have a frunk with a bit of storage up here, and right now the tent that goes over the rear is actually stored in there. So.
Oh, okay. Frunk is one of those annoying words to me. You have a trunk in the front. Yeah, that's the trunk. I mean, people go frunk, and then other people go, what'd you call me? No, I you know, it's just one of those names that just pops out of nowhere. Okay, all right, very cool. Well, let's see what anything else we're missing here, and this is obviously the logo of the company.
Yeah, it'll show you state of charge and other things as you walk up to the vehicle.
Oh, this will light up and.
Yep.
Okay.
And then eventually, you'll walk up to the vehicle and you'll put your thumb on it, and then the door open, or it'll recognize your key fob, and as you open up, you can set it in software how you want
Yeah,
it to
so if
react to
someone
you.
wants to steal your car, they just cut your thumb off. Yeah. They put it in the pond and they go. Yeah, that's what they never anticipate, you know. They always,
It's a vehicle of the future, you know,
Yeah.
future problems.
Well, the thumb has to be attached to your body for it to work.
yeah. Oh, it does. Well, I think that's good.
We thought through all those crimes.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's very good. Then, no, the thumb must be attached to the body. Luckily, the thieves will know that. Okay. All right, very cool. So what we have here is basically almost a T chassis, isn't it? We have this, and then a center spine that goes to the rear wheel.
Well, it really is a monocoque composite structure that takes all the stresses of the vehicle.
Okay.
So there's not a separate steel frame or aluminum
Oh, it's not
frame
like an
underneath
Elan where you
No.
have it. Oh,
No,
okay.
no, it's a composite chassis that also forms a roll cage for safety over the passengers.
Oh, okay. Very
There's
good.
a front subframe and a rear subframe. They're not connected, and they bolt up to the composite.
Cool. Well, let's take it for a spin.
Yeah, that's about as much as you get out of her. As we pass by the Baker Electric,
Yeah, there you go.
100
Great
years of
grandfather.
progress.
Yeah, it's got a nice pickup.
Electric torque.
Yeah, the rear view cameras work nice, and you've got plenty of leg room. And
Yeah, digital vision is nice. It allows you to see things normally, a convex mirror wouldn't let you. So, good night vision.
where's the horn?
No horn.
Oh, no horn.
Sorry.
I guess in the future you won't have a horn.
In the future, your vehicle will automatically recognize when you need to honk at someone.
Yeah.
You'll be able to send a message to their screen. So this one's just front wheel drive, so a little less pep than the all-wheel drive.
Right, right.
But still, for two-wheel drive, super efficient vehicle.
But you've got air conditioning and all in it.
Yeah, air conditioning and heat and driver and passenger airbags. Hopefully feels and drives like a typical small car.
Right. But it's tricky, Do you sell it as a practical small car or as a fun commuter recreational vehicle? You know what I'm saying?
I think for a lot of people, they just like the idea that, hey, I can have this electric vehicle that I don't ever have to plug in. I can use it when I want, use it on
Now
the
you
weekends.
say you don't have to plug in. Why don't you have to? Can you plug it in?
Yes. You plug it into any kind of charging thing you want. With a 110 outlet, just like you charge your cell phone on, you get 200 miles overnight.
Right.
So my Tesla, I had to install a big expensive charger, and
Right.
that's what happens with most electric vehicles is you have to have a big, powerful charger to get power into it. But
Yeah, well, that's like if you got a washer dryer combination.
yeah,
Same thing as 220. The only trouble with this is you have to leave it outside in the sun, right?
that's true. If you want the benefits of solar charging, it's best to leave it outside. But the average American commute is about 31 miles a day.
Right.
If you can charge 40 miles a day with this, then
Right.
you'd never have to plug your car in anymore.
Right. Assuming so you couldn't park it in the garage.
Except you can't park in the garage if you want that
Right.
free solar power. A little different vehicle structurally too, because it's a monocoque chassis. You have
Right.
the composite roll cage kind of runs over our heads here, but it's all attached to the whole rest of the vehicle. It's a cocoon of safety.
What's your biggest competitor, do you think? Is it something like the Chevy Bolt or little Fiat electric?
Yeah, we're so unique. We don't really see anybody else as competition. I mean, Steve and I want the world to adopt electric vehicles and for
Right.
electric vehicles to become more efficient. So, we hope that we pull people from motorcycle and from small EV and from combustion engines that
Right.
are looking for something to commute in. And for adventure people, you can take this vehicle camping, drive 300 miles to your favorite camping spot, leave it outside to charge, and actually come home with more charge than you left with, and still cook with your induction cooktop and charge your cell phone. And
Right.
it's interesting when you have a vehicle that can create its own power. There's a lot of things that open up as possibilities.
So what do you think is the real selling point? Is it the styling and the fact that nothing looks like it? It's unique. It sort of has that
Yeah,
look
I mean,
of the future,
It's the most efficient thing possible to get you from point A to point
Yeah.
B.
Can I adjust my regeneration?
Not on this one. In the
Okay.
future, you'll have 3 different settings, so you can have
And
high
there's
regen.
no regen when I press on the brakes. It's strictly
This is very light regen, so
Right, okay.
basically every time you're off the gas.
Right.
But if you start with science as your design principle, you end up with a vehicle that looks very different, it runs very different, it weighs less, it's more aerodynamic. You end up with the Aptera if you start
Right.
from a scientific, first principles point of view. How do I use the least amount of energy to get people from their home to their work, or from their home to their
Right.
grandma's, or...
So if you were to add a fourth wheel, you would have to totally redesign the whole vehicle.
Yeah, you know,
Even if
we
they were two wheels close together.
we have plans for, you know, aerodynamic, lightweight, super efficient drivetrain four-wheelers in the future.
Right.
But they'll look a lot like this. You know, they'll be super aerodynamic. They'll look, you know, more like a fish than a box.
Right.
You know, you look at the vehicles around us. You know, big flat sides, big upright windshields.
Right.
You know, that's just not efficient. And today, you know, I love big trucks. I used to rebuild Jeeps through college and helped pay my way through college.
Right.
I love off-roading, but but big SUVs are just crazy inefficient. You know, you'll burn 800-900 watt hours per mile in a big SUV, whereas this you're burning 100 watt hours per mile.
Right,
so.
right. Well, it's a lot of fun. It's very impressive. And of course, it looks like nothing else on the road, which is also a help and a hindrance. Because you have people think, oh, I don't want to attract that much attention, but I want something sensible, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
You get stuck between a rock and a hard place.
it's a vehicle that gets you noticed for sure. Yeah, you can't pick your nose in the Aptera because everybody's always looking at you. And stuff.
That's right.
So, yeah, when we started about redesigning the vehicle and we started looking at solar again, we're like, oh, solar's, you know, almost twice as efficient now as it was 10 years ago. So putting solar on the dash and putting solar, you know, everywhere we can on the
Right.
roof and in the back, just makes sense. Every watt of power counts. Try to make the interior, you know, comfortable, understandable, so
Yeah.
anybody that gets in the
Yeah,
vehicle,
nice,
you know,
clean
they,
interior, very Tesla-like in the sort of clean sheet of paper design type of deal.
Tesla's done an amazing job of figuring out, you know, how do people use electric vehicles and what things do they really need to touch and feel, and, you know.
Plus, it's a great thing of, you know, water lifts all the boats, you know?
Yep.
And the fact that, you know, the real genius to Tesla was putting the infrastructure in while you were building the car.
Yeah.
Because then you're going, oh, wow, look at this. I can get charging on it.
What's really cool about a vehicle that charges itself is you don't need all that charging infrastructure.
Yeah.
So, you know, we expect that people will keep these at home, and if they're going on a big long trip, when they come home, they just plug it into a 110 outlet,
Right.
and that gives them plenty of juice. You know, if people are buying this for business or for you know, something else,
I
they
gotta
don't.
admit, I'm sort of on the fence with, you know, electricity is like sex. Guys lie about it. You know? That's the trouble with it. And I've never seen. I always get in the comment section, why just cover the whole car with solar panels so you never have to charge it? Well, it doesn't really work that way. You get some power, but not enough.
Yeah, I mean, if you covered a Prius in solar cells, you could get, you know, maybe 8-10 miles a day of solar charge range, which is great. But you know, we thought.
So why don't they do it?
Well, one, the cost benefit. So
Right.
say you pay $2,000 for the solar package on a Prius, you're only getting 10 miles a day of solar range. You know, does the cost benefit really work out?
Right.
But we think once you cross that 30-mile range threshold,
Right.
now the majority of people that use the vehicle don't ever have to plug it in. We
Right.
think that that's a big, you know, sales benefit.
Yeah,
You know, if I knew I could drive a vehicle every day and never have to worry about plugging it in,
But the trouble is, the sun moves.
that's true.
You know, so you park your car here, by 11 o'clock at night, your car's in the shade.
Well,
I've got solar. My whole roof is solar. And what was promised versus what I get is so different.
Yeah, it changes in different parts of the country too. You know, New
Yeah.
Mexico gets great sun.
Right.
You know, Ireland doesn't get very much sun at all. But even in Ireland, you can get 20 miles a day of solar charge range
Right,
with the
right.
Aptera. So, you know, it's a lot less than Southern California or other places, but it's still pretty usable. In Europe, they only drive like 25 miles a day, so
Right.
they drive even less than we do. We worked on some of the ergonomics too in this vehicle from the past, so a little better visibility.
Visibility's good. Pedal placement is good. I mean, it's easy enough to drive. It's comfortable.
A little more comfortable than the Pantera.
Huh? Way more comfortable than the Pantera. Oh, yeah. But at least, I mean, getting in and out is not a problem. It's easy enough to do.
Yeah, we did the split windows because the aerodynamics of an inset window at the top of the shut face was just killing us aerodynamically. So
Right.
we ran a bunch of simulations and found that if we went with fixed glass up here, we would get like 3% better aerodynamics over the whole vehicle.
Right.
So
Plus, at high speed, these would billow out under pressure.
yeah. Yeah, we got 9 inches through the window, so you can still get your big gulp and
Yeah, yeah. Get a Wendy's triple patty through there. Only trouble is you can't avoid a pothole.
yeah, you know,
But you'll hit it with one of the 3 wheels.
the potholes are a decision that you have to make pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But the rear dampening on the vehicle can take a pothole just fine. You know, with a very lightweight vehicle, a lot of stuff is going to bounce you around, and you wouldn't get bounced around.
In testing?
No, we actually have really good stability in this because all the weight's forward.
Right.
So we did all kinds of skid pad testing and went to the Ford APG, and we tried to flip it, even curb tests. It was a champ in terms of stability.
Well, I wish you luck this time around. It's been 13 years since I saw you guys last, and I love the fact that, you know, you kind of got a little disappointed first go around, but you stuck to it and keep developing and keep developing. I think that's great. Yeah, I think that's really great.
Well, we appreciate it. We hope that, you know, a lot more people learn about Aptera and learn about solar electric vehicle possibilities. And
Do you have a website?
yeah, we do. www.aptera.us.
Well, I think the visual impact is what sells it. It doesn't look like anything else on the road. It has that futuristic, wow, that's cool. You know, I mean, so many extra cars like the Fiat 500 or the little, what is that BMW, the
i3 and the i8.
i3,
Yeah.
not an attractive car. You know, this to me is, it's got a definite look that says something about the owner. You know, you're sort of a futurist or whatever you want to call yourself.
If you really want to save energy and make a really efficient vehicle, it can't look like anything else on the road.
Right?
You know, if it's got to have uber aerodynamics, you know, you can't have a traditional grille with a radiator behind it that you're flowing air through.
Right.
You got to have a really sleek body profile.
But you know, it's funny, but then you have to sell something that looks like a car. That's what killed the Chrysler Airflow.
Yeah.
And when it was developed, it was the most aerodynamic car out there. But it didn't have the prestige radiator. And people thought, well, it doesn't look like an impressive car.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this has a cool look. I think the visual is something people either love it and they got to have it, or they dismiss it totally out of hand.
Yeah.
You know, I always use the example of Bob Lutz when the Viper came out. He said half the people love it, the other half hate it. And I said, what do you do about the people that hate it? He goes, nothing, they're not going to buy it anyway. You know, but at least some people love it. And
Yeah.
I think that's what you have here. Other people will not see any practical use at all, but other people go, oh, I got to have that. That is the coolest thing, and it's 25 grand, and I got the only one on the block, and you know, all of that.
We hope so. If you want unique styling and really unique performance, we're an interesting bet.
What sort of suspension do you have in the back here?
It's a single-sided swing arm, so you probably have a lot of motorcycles that are built like
Yeah,
that.
like a single shock?
Yeah, single shock up top on a bell crank. This one actually has a single shock in line because it's a development vehicle, but we're working with Roush on a lot of the suspension development, and they're gods in terms of you know, production design intent and stuff that we can build at volume. So yeah, one of the interesting thing about the axial flux motors is once we get the regen tune, you get about 30% more regen than a typical
And explain what that
induction
is.
motor. The axial flux motor is just magnets around the outside of the motor.
Right.
So because they're in the wheels, the magnets are very close to your wheel or your rim. And because that's a bigger lever arm, you know, it's further away from your point of rotation, it gives you really good leverage. So it's great torque for the amount of power that we have, and it's
Right.
also great regen. So having the wheels outside, or having the motors, you know, so far out, probably also makes the vehicle feel a little more grounded than a 1,700-pound vehicle normally would, because you have, you know, 60 kilograms roughly out on each wheel.
I mean, I don't have my foot on the throttle and feel the aerodynamics at work. It's not really I don't feel like I'm hitting a wall. You know?
Yeah, the coast down is pretty extreme in this vehicle.
Yeah.
You better have a long runway if you're doing coast down testing.
Well, I hope you contact us when you go into full-time production.
We will.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun. And I hope you enjoyed this interesting look at future technology, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.